Now, what does an advanced player mean exactly? It's going to be dependent on where you live, but you know what I mean when I say advanced player, right? You know those players, and that's where you want to get to. However, the things that I have to show you today are most likely going to apply to you when it comes to this type of play. The first thing here, guys, is to stop calling yourself an intermediate player. Just stop treating yourself that way. I know it may sound a little bit, maybe a little bit silly, but if you keep calling yourself an intermediate player or even like a beginner, or you say like, oh, I'm just not really up for it, or I'm not quite there yet, or whatever, dude, you got to stop doing that. Just start calling yourself an advanced player. Now you got to watch the ego, right? Watch that whole part of it. Don't be arrogant, right? But don't underplay yourself either, right? You're probably better than you think you are. And it starts with just watching the kind of language that you use when it comes to your own play. When you look yourself in the mirror, do you say 3-5 or 4-0? Do you say 3-0 or 4-0? Start saying 4-0 a little bit more often. I think it will surprise you how that type of language will translate to the technique and strategies that I'm about to show you. So let's head outside so I can show you some of the good stuff. Here we go. Let's talk about some technical skill now. We need to upgrade your thirds. It used to be, and you know, in some areas it still is, that the high, archy, floaty third shot drops were a really great idea. And look, they still are if you hit them perfectly and if your opponent doesn't have any kind of forehand roll. What people are starting to do more these days, two things in general. First, they're getting their thirds much lower, so it's kind of like a half drive or a third shot dive, as I call it. So it's just kind of like a little drive. I'll show it to you here in a second. And the second thing is that they're becoming significantly more aggressive when it comes to the transition. You can't stay back there, guys. You gotta start coming forward. I've done a video about this. It's linked up here in the corner, so make sure you go to check that out. But let's talk a little bit about the technique. So typically with thirds, you're gonna be doing this sort of thing, where you're just kind of like hitting these soft little shots into the kitchen. Oh boy, the wind is a little bit nuts today. But again, the problem is that these shots have a tendency to bounce too high. And if people are good at rolling the ball over, you're just gonna get a much worse shot than the return. You're putting yourself into a worse position. So what I want to introduce to you here is the third shot dive. Now, if you're a PK Academy member, go over there and check it out. I talk about it a lot on there. If you're not a member, you need to go sign up. You get it free for 4 days. Super easy. There's no gimmicks, none of that nonsense. I make it as easy for people as possible. Go check it out. I'm just going to do a soft little drive like that. What a block that was. But notice what happened there. Do you see how it dove down like that? I didn't hit it very hard. I didn't rev up for it and come all the way through. It was just an easy little drive, and it ended up right here. Now I'm dealing with a fifth from here instead of dealing with a third from there. And that gives you a nice little advantage. So like that. And again, I'm not hitting it very hard, and it really puts a little bit more pressure on your opponent, because now they're having to volley a shot that has a little bit of pace and some topspin as well. So let me show it to you again here. So do you see how that worked? That was perfect. That was actually perfect. That's exactly what you want to do. It forces a dink. And most importantly, it forces a return with no topspin. It's so helpful for people who may not have a lot of strength or a lot of power in their shots, and it's much easier to do. Again, just light little shot like that, right at the feet. What a short hop from her perspective. So here's the thing, is that it also transitions beautifully into a third shot drive if you want to. If you want to really hit the ball that hard, You can do that if you want to. Both will give you that setup regardless of what you end up doing. Whoop, a little too high. There we go, that's it right there. Soft little shots here. It can put people in a very awkward position when you do sort of a half drive like that. But also, you have to be more aggressive with your transitions, guys. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do the same shot, and then I'm gonna actually come in. So now we're really gonna freak Linda out here. We're gonna put so much pressure on her that she's gonna be forced to dink. Here we go. Nice. So she had no choice but to dink. A combination of both that half drive at her feet and me coming into the net, threatening the volley, forced a dink, and there you are at the net. It's a beautiful mechanical kind of thing here. Okay, perfect example. That's a shake and bake effectively, but just with me only. The next thing we want to focus on here is paying a little bit more attention to what your opponent is doing and what's coming your way. Now, Linda is really good at this. I mean, we've done so many of these videos now that she really kind of understands the way I dink the ball. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some flat dinks, which don't have any spin, and then I'm gonna do some forehand topspin dinks, which are a lot more aggressive, and she's going to respond accordingly. All right, so we're doing just some flat dinking here. Nothing crazy. No forehand topspin or anything, but she's watching my body language. And now, that was perfect. So she was forced to really come back, but she knew because she saw the topspin roll motion that I was doing. She saw it coming and responded accordingly. That's so good, Linda. So you see how I'm coming up? Now, maybe I could have volleyed that one, but you see what I mean for demonstration purposes. I'm really putting some topspin on these shots, and she's reacting accordingly. Now, I had the offensive advantage on those dinks, right? You could tell because she was short hopping everything, and I was putting the pressure on, but she was surviving, and that's the point. So surviving onshots like this is how you really get better at dinking, and it's critical. So again, topspin. Oh boy. And I want you to just notice the back and forth that's going on here. Sometimes Linda will hit one way out wide that forces me to not be able to do topspin like this, and I have to do a more of a slicey thing. However, she kind of gives me one here that I can take out of the air like that. Then all of a sudden I have the offensive advantage. Okay, so you see how that works. Really important to pay attention to the kind of pace and the kind of shot your opponent is doing so that you can have the chance of responding accordingly. The next thing here is you need to start learning backspin and topspin. You need to learn both. Topspin especially. It's tough, it's really hard to do. It took me months and months and months to learn it because I didn't come from a racket sport, but believe me, if I can do it, you can too. Topspin is all about the loose, relaxed wrist. You have to get this paddle down, okay? And then when it's down like this, you want to brush up and then listen to this side of your paddle. Down, up. You're going to brush up on the ball. This wrist has to be loose, guys. It's so important. So when the ball comes over, come up like this. Sometimes you'll finish on this side, on your right side or your dominant side. Other times for more aggressive shots, you'll end up on your left side or your non-dominant side. Like that. Up like this. Topspin is brutal because it makes the ball pop up off the paddle. So let me give an angle of just like some regular ground strokes here. Again, really loose wrist. Can also help to have more of an Eastern grip. So if you have a continental grip like this, rotate it to the right. If you're left-handed, rotate it to the left, just a little bit. It'll help out a lot. So again, loose wrist, ball's coming over, up like that. So again, notice how I came all the way up, brush up on the ball. You also saw that I got all my weight through the shot. You want to pretend like you have a belt buckle, and after you're done with the shot, your belt buckle is going to face forward. Okay? Now luckily, backspin is a lot easier to do. It's a little bit more simple and it's more natural for people. I've done quite a few videos on this already, so you can definitely go check those out. Having said that, typically if you're doing a backspin return from here, it's typically on a serve. So if the serve is coming over, we first need to turn our body. Load the paddle up here, and then you're gonna come straight down without breaking too much. So notice how I'm coming down like this. You may end up doing this. We kind of flay the paddle out. That's okay. You wanna come down like this. Nice continental grip. If you're doing the Eastern thing that I was just telling you about, you may slice underneath the ball and it'll just go straight up like that. All right, so watch. Straight down. Crazy amounts of spin. The more continental you go with this grip, the lower the ball is going to go. Now, you don't have to rip it like that. You can do a lot easier motion than that. That's just my personal preference. Okay, you can always go a lot softer. That is totally okay. The other thing that will happen when you do a stroke like this is sometimes if you kind of hit it right, if you kind of like come out a little bit, you end up getting a little bit of side spin, and that can be really fun as well and effective. So just kind of grip it across like this and it'll bounce out. Here's the last thing, guys. Start serving harder. You don't need to be super strong to serve the ball hard. I am not a very big guy. I'm below average when it comes to like males at mid-30s. Even so, I have a really fast serve, and that, I'm not trying to flex, it's just mechanics, okay? Serve harder. This is not 2015 anymore. They may be able to outlaw the hand spin serve and so on, but there's the fast serve, the hard serve is not going away. The principle behind it is you have to get the weight coming through the ball, and you need to sort of snap at the ball when you come through. And when you do that, you will get a tremendous amount of power on the ball. Load up, and then everything through. Get this whole non-dominant side of your body out of the way and get the belt buckle pointed forward. And that will give you a blistering serve. Keep in mind, as you begin to do this, the ball will begin to land short because there's so much topspin, so you need to start hitting it a little bit deeper. Okay, so again, watch from this angle. And just rip the ball. It's gonna take some practice, but destroy that ball, guys. It's time to start hitting the ball harder on your serve. Like I said, guys, this is not 2015 anymore. Don't just get your serve in. You're most likely playing it too safe on your serve. You want to be a more advanced player. You absolutely must start hitting the ball harder on your serve. A harder serve produces a worse return, which produces an easier third, which means you're going to be able to transition to the net and start to build the point. It's really that simple. I have a ton of guides on serves. Again, everything is in the description. I hope you learned something today, guys. Those are the things that you need to really become an advanced player. I hope this helps. Again, check out PK Academy. You got to go check it out. But once again, I make it really easy. It's simple to sign up and everything. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.